Just remember the stuff presented by this creepy bear is from the Evolution 101 website, written by the Understanding Evolution team. Commentary by Rent-A-Friend2000. That's me!
So, what are the sources of genetic variation?
Oh, QVC! Is it QVC? No? Woot? Amazon.com! Etsy? No, it is not Etsy. Do not tell me it's Etsy. So help me.
Genetic variation. Without genetic variation, some of the basic mechanisms of evolutionary change cannot operate.
Some. Did you get that? So in a world of clones, other mechanisms of evolutionary change apparently could operate. I swear they didn't proofread this stuff. To me, they've basically said, without ingredients, some entrees could not be prepared. I am not eating at their restaurant.
There are three primary sources of genetic variation, which we will learn more about. 1. Mutations or changes in the DNA. A single mutation can have a large effect, but in many cases, evolutionary change is based on the accumulation of many mutations.
In some cases, a single mutation can give you superpowers, or blue skin. They may gloss over that since Fox Studios owns the rights to it. Maybe we'll see how it turns reptiles into martial artists.
2. Gene flow is any movement of genes from one population to another and is an important source of genetic variation.
First, this only adds variation to a particular population. Those genes already existed in the species, so this isn't a source of genetic variation, it's basically just immigration. Second, I sat behind gene flow in high school chemistry. I tried to cheat off his test once, but his answers were worse than mine.
3. Sex can introduce new gene combinations into a population. This genetic shuffling is another important source of genetic variation.
Well, there goes my PG rating. Kids, ask your parents before you watch the rest of this video. And again, they say they're going to show us where the Queen of Hearts came from, and then they suggest one of the factors which created her was shuffling the deck? Are they making fun of me? How are you gonna make the Queen of Hearts by shuffling the deck? She's already in there! She has tea with the Queen of Diamonds on Tuesdays! How about you kids shuffle until you make the Archduke of Hearts? Now there's a card trick I'd pay to see.
Mutations. Mutation is a change in DNA, the hereditary material of life. An organism's DNA affects how it looks, how it behaves, and its physiology, all aspects of its life. So a change in an organism's DNA can cause changes in all aspects of its life.
Just to keep you on your toes, some scientific fact which doesn't contradict itself. Enjoy it while it lasts.
Mutations are random. Mutations can be beneficial, neutral, or harmful for the organism, but mutations do not try to supply what the organism needs. In this respect, mutations are random. Whether a particular mutation happens or not is unrelated to how useful that mutation would be.
I guess they expect you to do your own homework on DNA. So let me play Wikipedia and fill in a few gaps. DNA is the information which codes for proteins, which are the building blocks of the cell, and all life is made of cells. DNA is a 4-letter language which, as far as protein production is concerned, is written into 3-letter words called codons. Just like English, a misspelling can charge the earning of the word. A misspelling can change the meaning of the word. A mutation is a misspelling.
Not all mutations matter to evolution. Since all cells in our body contain DNA, there are lots of places for mutations to occur. However, not all mutations matter for evolution. Somatic mutations occur in non-reproductive cells and won't be passed on to offspring. For example, the golden color on half of this red delicious apple was caused by a somatic mutation. The seeds of this apple do not carry the mutation.
Did you catch that? Of the trillions of cells which make up an organism, the beneficial spelling mistake has to happen in the one cell which results in the new organism. If a really helpful spelling mistake happens in any but the 2 haploids which actually join to make a new organism, then nothing gets passed on. Keep that in your head as we consider how likely this process is.
The only mutations that matter to large-scale evolution are those that can be passed on to offspring. These occur in reproductive cells like eggs and sperm and are called germline mutations.
Would you like an odd and somewhat unnecessary metaphor? Come on, you'll enjoy it. It involves cookies. Cells replicating DNA are like an old blind typist who spends his time copying recipes for cookies so that they can be sent to waiting bakeries via fax. Kids, ask your parents what a fax machine is. He's trying to copy the recipe for some good old-fashioned chocolate chip cookies, but, being blind, he sometimes misses a key, or hits a key more than once when he doesn't mean to. Once the recipe is done being typed, he walks it to the office down the hall, where 1,000 paper shredders and 1 fax machine await. They all feel and sound the same, and because the cleaning woman is always moving them around when she sweeps in there, he's never sure which is the fax machine. He just sticks it in one at random and hits the button. Now, if the mistakes he makes actually make the cookies better, and he manages to stumble upon the fax machine, then the bakeries will get an improved recipe, and will call him to tell him what the recipe should now read, and that change will stay. But let's face it, that doesn't happen a whole lot. So a somatic mutation is an error in the cookie recipe, which winds up in the shredder. A gene mutation is one which makes it into the fax machine. For evolution to happen, the mistakes that make it into the fax machine have to improve the recipe. To change a cookie recipe, you need to add new information. Most misspellings will ruin the recipe, but to also change the cookies, that new and improved recipe needs to wind up in the hands of the baker. Otherwise, nothing happens. So from chocolate labs to cookie trees, the information which it takes to make them is far more than the info you'll find inside the Darwinian ancestor, a single cell. To get from that one cell to wolves and cabbages and everything in between takes huge additions of genetic information. Mutations can't do that job. To add a lot of information takes a mind, and to add the amount of info it would take to make a cabbage or a wolf takes a supermind, specifically, God. Genesis chapter 1 tells us that God made the heavens and the earth, the sky and the seas, and all that lives in them. Common sense should tell us that lots of new information can come from a brilliant mind. Maybe it's time to give the book of Genesis a second look. As for me, I'm off to have tea with the Queen of Diamonds, so I'll have to shuffle off to Buffalo. It's my turn to make dinner and, unlike some, I'm going to use ingredients. And I'll see you next week for more. Yeah.